The Caretaker of Tree Palace by C. Don McCallum. Chapter 6, The Unseen. The Dream. Doodles stood in the clearing, his notebook and pencil tightly grasped. He looked hard at the scrawny trees, waiting for Tree Palace to somehow reveal itself at last. "Where are you?" he screamed, feeling the freedom of a dream. "Here," his mother's voice called from a tree. His head whipped to see her, his feet leapt to run to her. But all he saw was a mourning dove stepping along a branch. "Where?" he begged, watching the bird's tender eyes, its familiar gaze. "Look closer," she told him. Walking toward the tree where the bird danced, flapping her wings in play, he tilted his head for a different perspective. Closer. Rocky soil churned under his feet. The tree stretched its limbs above him as if ready for an embrace. Then the bird smiled. Smiled. The bird. "Wait!" The boy halted. "Birds can't smile." "No?" she asked, spreading her arms on the wind. Mid-air, the bird changed. The gray-brown wing tips became fingers. The little rounded head transformed into his mother's, her long brown hair flowing in flight. She landed in front of him, looking just the same as the last day of her life. "Doodles!" she cried with open arms. "Mom!" He dropped his notebook and pencil and ran to her. "Mom!" In her arms he knew. It was her. "Mom," he said, his voice muffled in her warm body. "I missed you," he cried. "I miss you so much." She shook with laughter and held him closer. "It's okay," she told him. "It's all going to be okay." Doodles wanted to tell her a million things about Grandma, about the move to Texas, about how much he missed her. But all he could do was hold on and not let go. "Have you seen it yet?" she asked. Her voice echoed in her chest. "Seen what?" "Tree Palace." Yes, he wanted to say, but it wouldn't be true, and she always knew when he wasn't telling the truth. Instead, he was silent. "He's been trying too hard," another voice said from behind him. He didn't need to look to know who it was. The sound of the seed pouring on the board confirmed it. Prying himself from his mother's warm embrace, he turned to acknowledge his grandmother, who filled the festal board. "Trying what too hard?" he asked. "To see Tree Palace," she answered, endlessly pouring. "Oh, I see." His mother's hands cupped his face. She stared into his eyes and looked deeply into him. "Would you like to see it now, my son?" He nodded. Tilting her head down, she gave him her stern look, but with the tiniest of smiles. "Yes, ma'am," he said. "I want to see Tree Palace." "That's better," she said conspiratorially. "I'll take you around myself." Grabbing his hand, she stooped, picked up his notebook and pencil, and handed them back to him. "Think you should do that?" His grandmother smiled. "Well," she stopped. "Let's see what the sky says." Gazing upward, she searched for an answer from an unseen place. Yes, I should show him the way, like any other mother bird teaching her fledgling to fly. Both women laughed, filling the woods with a breeze so sweet it had to be springtime. His grandmother continuously poured the seed, which now covered her feet, and was fast approaching the boy, as if it were a wave flowing toward him. "Tree Palace is a special place," his mother explained as they walked together on the well-worn path. "The first thing you'll have to do is ask to see it, which you have done." She laughed. "Very good." Ducking under a limb, she took him to a secret room just beyond the main hall. Seeds poured in. "Then you must trust it will be shown to you." Spinning around the room, free of all pain and stiffness, she pulled his notebooks up to his heart and whispered, "Then you must do the work that's before you." His mother smiled and flew to the top of a tree. "It's underneath everything that can be seen Tree Palace, and the just beyond." Seed rose around his ankles. In the distance, his grandmother poured and poured. "You'll know when you've found it. There will be music in every room, music of birds and breezes." The seed rose to his knees. He tried to lift a foot, but his legs froze under the weight of the little seeds. Cedar-scented music. The two women laughed together. "Catherine, don't forget." The sound of the seed overflowing on the board drowned out most of what she said. He could just make out her final words. It's okay. As the seed closed in around his chest, his notebook and pencil disappeared. The seed reached his ears when he heard her say, "It's all going to be okay." He struggled as the seeds rose to his face, to his nose. He was forced to close his eyes. "You're almost there," her voice sounded from inside his head. It comforted him now, no longer in his ears. "Don't forget to trust," his grandmother called. Just as the seeds covered him, his eyes opened to the darkness of his room. It tightened around him. He kicked the blanket off to let the sweat dry and wished the daylight would come. "Mama?" Thank you for listening to The Caretaker of Tree Palace by C. Don McCallum. If you're enjoying this story, please consider sharing it with someone you know. And please like the video and subscribe to this channel to help others discover these stories.